So you shouldn't give people choices.
Well, I figured that next week was probably a little bit too soon for people to,
Yeah.
I needed to give them another option.
I'll tell you, I got the prices and all, the specs and everything from her on the,
Yeah, well,
Pictures.
in my report, we can discuss, I have it in the director's report, so we can,
today? Okay.
just kind of
I
like,
think it was around 15,000. We have that kind of money? We get 7 or 8 from the grant, don't we?
we have a little bit under 8,000.
Okay. And you saw my email with the timeline, huh?
I may have to miss that.
We'll have to talk about that at our meeting in 2 weeks. That's the thing that worries me, is about the timeline on it. That's where we're going, Tuesday. Project to cover the exit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. You've heard of the place?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never been there, but.
That's what, things got those lights that keep malfunctioning in the pool. General clearance, what's going on.
But you're looking at tile, aren't you?
Yeah, we get the time.
I was using glass tile.
I want something that doesn't get,
Efflorescent.
I think it's a calcium buildup in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Because those little tiles, I want something that look organic. Those look like little stone tiles.
Mm-hmm.
But they just covered with film.
So you get somebody maintaining your pool?
Yeah, scrub tile. You should learn how.
Good morning.
You get him to scrub tile. Huh?
Got 75 years old, girl, and clean that
Put
shit
your
up.
hands and knees down and do it. You could do it.
I've tried.
Huh?
I have tried.
Yeah.
I got
What do you, like muriatic
muriatic
acid?
And they got these little stones.
Mhm.
You rub
Doesn't come off?
and that come off.
Is it like a stone tile, like a
Yeah.
fake stone
I
tile?
think it's called porcelain.
I wonder if something like a glass.
Hey, good morning, y'all.
That's what I was suggesting, maybe a glass tile.
Something that won't-
Something that, you
won't
know,
build up on it.
easier to clean. It doesn't, can't, but maybe we can ask this, maybe those folks down there, over there.
I'll take a picture of my problem.
Yeah, I would,
Show 'em.
yeah.
How's the pain?
Get the stitches out yesterday.
Did you really?
Huh?
Still have to keep it scabbed?
What'd you do?
Got into an axe fight, but,
Over the old EO hatchet house and
Bad.
somebody missed?
you ever seen the other guy? He's like missing an arm.
What happened? I didn't know you,
I had a melanoma removed.
you did?
Yeah.
It's falling apart, aren't you?
I know. You know, old people always talk about their medical
Yeah.
ills, and mine are like in my face. You know?
Yeah, you can't hide this.
Felt like I got this pain right here. It's like, it's on my head, you can see it. But yeah, it's all good to get Tim Morgan.
Playing too much golf is what it is. Solar
I
exposure.
wish that was it.
Huh?
I wish that was it, but I wear a hat all the time, which
Yeah.
confuses me.
Yeah, you definitely do.
Bald
That-
head, I
Yeah,
never not
probably
wear
had
a
nothing to
hat.
do with it.
'Cause I can't go outside in the sun for 5 minutes without a hat. Anyway, I'm good.
It's gonna catch me up one day, 'cause
You
that's,
know, Frank Kinchy tells me it's like a minor surgery, just a minor.
That doesn't
thing.
look minor.
No.
That looked like brain
So I
surgery.
scheduled meetings the day after thinking, no, it's
Kind of looked like a Frankenstein
just in style.
stitch up there.
You know, when he started going down to the skull.
Who did it? He did it?
No, there's a doctor in Baton Rouge that,
Uh-huh.
they call it the Mohs procedure, where they can look right after they remove the
Mhm.
tissue to see if it's.
See if they got it
Got
at
it.
all, yeah.
Then he comes back after an hour and a half, he's sitting there. There's a little spot, I think I need to take some more. I said, "Oh, this is great."
geez, after now, yeah, like,
So he shoots me up with lidocaine some more,
Oh,
he
Lord.
starts carving away, getting scalped. Everybody had to look, Barbara was with me, she had to look away. Wow. There were meetings Thursday and Friday last week, just me. Wow. Anyway,
yeah, 'cause I saw
Wear
you,
your sunscreen,
I saw
y'all.
you Thursday at lunch, I think is when it was.
Yeah, I never wear sunscreen either. I should.
I know
you
it's
told me
gonna,
last week right after I had done it.
right after I'm meeting in Baton Rouge, so it must have been the next day. Yeah, it's a Thursday or something. did actually, and I have a meeting set up with them next Tuesday. I think I got a shot at it. I don't know if anybody wants to hear it. I don't know, maybe Gasway put in another one. But she said there were 3 firms, and if you were third, you'll back out. And it's just me and somebody else in that in the world.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah.
Who are we waiting on? Chris
Is
and
Cassie coming?
I texted her, they didn't hear back from her.
Chris said he'd be here, didn't
Chris
he?
said he would be here as well.
When does Starbucks start logging on?
Just give them 2 minutes and then we can get started.
They're so slow. So slow getting the lease set up and the design.
Contract.
It's Kent Construction, but it was busy, doing the whole original negotiations. And he always knew he wanted to do a coffee shop, and what I had designed originally was gonna match the other little building, right? I ended up having to redesign it and just go with the stupid Starbucks prototype, which doesn't look near as nice, there's no dimension to it, no animation or whatever. But, they just took forever to finally commit. And then, yeah, it's been sitting there waiting for them to go and do the interior.
That's what Hammond needs, we need one more coffee shop.
Yeah, really. I think we pretty much got everything we need. Plenty of hamburger shops. Got a Lucky Dogs now.
Offerings of cuisine would be
Oh, what kind?
offerings of cuisine, like,
Mm.
we lost our Vietnamese restaurant, we moved to Mall. One day,
You can thank him for that.
Thanks, Tom.
Korean barbecue.
well, Korean barbecue, they put in 6 stations, which like takes up half the
Hoods.
restaurant.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to do with that. No, you can
You
still
go-
sit there. You can still
You
sit there
still sit there. I
if you
just-
don't use it.
It's not, I mean, I could walk to the other one.
I know, I know.
So it was really nice.
Are we, I guess Roy's submission is electronic, digital?
Yes.
Yeah, we had a board, but
Yeah, your second email, I was able to look at it, but the first one I couldn't get into Google. It was making
I'm not
me
quite
too
sure.
quick.
yeah, it's like, I've seen that problem.
I found that when I'm on my phone trying to do it, it won't work either.
Oh, really?
I hate-
For some,
hate
that it's
that.
probably some app or something like
Yeah, I
that.
was trying to
You
make
can
it.
always use like Dropbox or something, but Google
There
might
he
be
is.
easier.
Go, has a ride. People.
Okay,
A
well.
little low chair, be
um,
careful.
That's okay. Is Cassie,
I'm
did we
looking
already
at
talk
the
about this?
phone,
Cassie
yeah.
is coming?
I don't know. I just texted her.
Did she respond to your email?
She did not.
Probably not, man.
Well, we don't, you wanna give her some more time or would you like to get started?
I mean, she didn't respond to your email, and she didn't respond to your text. I guess she's out of town. Forgot.
That's true. She didn't even respond to the email yesterday. Yeah.
Is it, we have a forum?
Hmm?
Is this a forum?
Go.
And we're not voting on Roy's, he's just presenting, right? So we don't get that.
Someone like to call
I'm
to
gonna quick
order?
try.
You want me to do it again?
Yeah. Did such a good job last time.
Okay, call the meeting to order. This is the DDD Design Committee meeting Thursday, February 2nd. Can we get a roll call, please?
Chris Bateson,
Here.
Pierre Bennett,
Here.
Roy Dupresh,
Here,
Tom Storius.
Here.
Cassie Reagan, Jeffrey Smith.
Here.
Okay, we've got some old business, approval of the minutes from January 12th. Should be attached in your folder here.
Michelle, on item 3,
Yes,
it's, I'm nitpicking, but there's a misspelling.
sir.
It should be protect pedestrians. It's just missing a C.
and design is down to, like the second sentence is misspelled to design.
Yeah, I'll run spell check through the whole thing, because I did this, in 15 minutes before this meeting. So I'll make sure that all the spellings are,
You know, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I think I did. But you mentioned that it's Thomas and Oak. I think Morris and K is also a very dangerous intersection that needs being addressed.
God, it is. That's right in front of Chena.
Yeah, you can't cross Morris, and people are turning off at K, going to Morris or coming down Morris. I really think we need a traffic light there.
I've seen one too many wrecks right there.
I see people from out of town that don't realize it's a one-way, in the right lane, and they stop to make a left onto K.
You know, but
Right.
I almost got hit by that girl turning off of K onto Morris when I was trying to cross it. And I had to basically jump out of her way.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of January 12th meeting.
I'll second that.
Bangston,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes?
Reggie Brush,
Yes?
Tom Torian,
Yes.
Becky Reagan, Jeffrey Smith.
Yes.
Okay, and the second item is nominations for the open committee seat.
So you have.
And that's another.
You have a list here of our, the nominations that we've received for the open seat. And I've received their resumes. The only thing I have to do is check that they're registered to vote in Tangipahoa Parish. This last one is Russell Mayhew, I spelled his name wrong. But you can see the, organization that they're with, or, you know, their background, either architect or in real estate, and the person who nominated them. This will be on the, board agenda for February 15th. Each person who was nominated, I've sent the design guideline handbook to, just so they can kind of like read over it in the interim, and then informing them that the board is meeting for their appointment, deciding one of them, and they should attend that meeting to, advocate for themselves. So those are our list of potentials. I mean, technically, there could be more added, but I haven't gotten any other nominations.
The guidelines say developers, I guess, builders, architects, and whatever,
Yeah.
designer, anywhere in the design field. I know Russell's, I think he's a realtor, maybe he's a developer too.
Yeah, he's
Maybe he
like a
does his own
both.
kind of both things, okay. All right.
And their resumes are, I did put them in the drive. I don't know if you're able to access them, but those are there. So the board will, hopefully appoint someone on the 15th, and then we'll have a complete committee.
Good choices.
Okay, you want to move on to new business? First one up is a presentation by Roy for the Hammond welcome sign. Is that behind us?
There you go, good. This is just the concept drawings that I presented, I think it was last week. It was Michelle, myself, Lacey from the city, and Marcus McMillan, I think his name is. He's kind of the technology director, I guess you'd call it, for the city, who I've been working with on the sign. These are just, there's three different options for, really they're basically the cap options. And again, this is just preliminary, but we wanted to get something on paper to see kind of where we are with the numbers. And one of the issues we have is just the sign itself. You know, we have a $75,000 budget, and we have a sign, this LED sign that is 15 feet by 5 feet that is kind of surrounded. It's on, you know, you can see it's got the graphics on it. Just that sign is in the $47,000 to $50,000 range. Met with the guy who builds those kind of things to understand the technology about it. And then just to get electrical from the pole underground to the sign is another around $12,000 to $15,000 estimated by my electrical engineer. So we're at $65,000 before we even really get started on it. So my estimate for what I'm showing here is about $125,000. And so I presented that, like I said, to Lacey and to Michelle. And, you know, we realized that the DDD is probably going to have to pony up some money if we're going to do this project. So these renderings are basically showing, you know, and there's a plan up in the corner here too that just shows the sighting of the sign. In meeting with the technical guy who builds this, I had some concept where the signs were at angles, and because everybody thought the sign at an angle to the street, that was one of the questions that came up, might be more readily, more easily readable. But he says that it should be perpendicular to the street, and based on the pixels and all, he felt that this thing would be very easily readable. So that's kind of how it is. And then, so from a design standpoint, it's got a low planter in front of it, and then in cast stone, this would be cast stone, it would say the city of Hammond, or something, welcome, whatever. We hadn't really, this is, like I said, it's conceptual. And then we have 3 different cap designs, some inlaid kind of limestone, or it's probably all precast, or, cast stone type products, that kind of thing. And the idea was to kind of integrate the sign, because it's a very, it's kind of just a big metal box, but try to integrate that into the sign architecture. So, there would be a small column on one end, and it would butt the larger column, and then we'd have metal lintels and structural steel to kind of carry the lintels across the top of it, so we could cap it and do some brickwork. So the sign is a little bit more integral into the sign, into the architecture of the entire design. And then maybe plant some trees. I got a little money in there for landscaping, that kind of thing. We have to hold the sign off the street a good bit because of the sight triangles that are required by DOTD at that intersection of Coleman and Railroad Avenue. So, questions?
Roy, we can't come forward this way another few feet? Or
You could. Right now, it's right at that last bollard, the last bollard along the street. The front, you can see the little bollard right there. That's where it's located.
Yeah, the picture looked closer to the road.
Huh?
Yeah, it looks, yeah.
Closer to the street, you saying, Tom?
Yeah, that's what the rendering looked.
No, I was thinking just coming further south, but now I see it in site plan view.
Yeah.
Okay.
We really can't come closer to Railroad Avenue because
How about that?
of the sight triangle.
Yeah.
No, I think what Tom's saying is further south.
Further south like that to have a little bit of.
You can do that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, sure,
Maybe
yeah.
10 feet,
You
because
align the
instead of being.
sign with the bollard, not just the planter.
Yeah.
The sign with the bollard, sure, you can do that.
So it
Mhm.
goes to
Because
register.
there's so much,
But there's another, yeah, it would be lined up with that bollard right there.
you could maybe come back a
Those-
little bit.
Those poles would all come out. That's the current welcome sign
Show the
config.
street some so we can see just how far down is it start to cut off. Yeah, it's gonna be highly visible.
Yeah.
Mhm. But we
I
actually
just
have,
think it's.
I actually have a rendering.
Suggested to the
There's
floor.
another rendering that shows it from a distance. There's another rendering that shows it from a distance.
That one, okay.
This one.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you're good.
Mhm. Yeah, but we could move the sign and line the sign itself up to, that part with the bollard, that would move the sign about 8 or 10 feet
8
closer,
or 10 is perfect.
further south. That's not gonna be any big issue.
And it gives
You
you a
know-
little more landscaping behind it too,
We're gonna do a little landscaping behind it, yeah.
Boy, what was the city response?
Lacey liked it because she thought it, it kind of reflected architecturally what's happening downtown. And, of course, the concern is the numbers, but,
We kind of unanimously thought, Roy kind of mentioned the only difference was the cap on the column, but we kind of felt that option B was.
it's a little bit more traditional. Option B is a little bit more traditional cap.
I don't notice the difference.
C was something similar that Jeffrey and them had done. It's more of a kind of I guess it's kind of a Art Deco kind of lantern top that y'all had done at the southeastern thing. That's gonna be much more expensive because that has to be, that's a custom fabricated fixture. I'm sorry?
Talking about C.
C, yeah. These are just options. Like I said, it's preliminary. There's a lot of opportunity still to kind of tweak and get more detail into the design and all that. This is just something to get on paper to kind of frame out where it's going to go, what it might look like in mass, and try to get a number on it so we know where we are, with the budget. And, Michelle mentioned that there's probably money available from the DDD to put up their part. It would be another $50,000 roughly to get to the point where we could actually construct it. So
I think that's possible.
I'm really kind of on hold. I think I'll be presenting this to the DDD Board of Directors on the 15th for their consideration. And
Yeah, we,
As I can't help myself, I got a few comments to my designer friend here.
Well,
Just throwing
course.
out, again, I'm just
State your
throwing,
name
throwing
and
stuff
your
out.
address.
Why are you bothering us?
I think City of Hammond is unnecessary, you know, that it would say that.
mhm,
And actually, I think it would look better if that was brick and not stone.
okay,
And maybe if you wanted to put Hammond, it would be applied letters, kind of like at Southeastern.
yeah, we could do it that way.
Because I think that would read stronger if that was all brick there. And I think the column scale is just too fat.
Mhm.
Maybe it could be slimmed down some, a little bit, yeah, maybe, I know you said you mentioned putting the brick on top of that sign, but that could be a problematic, you know, just,
Well, the idea was that there would be structural steel on either end with
Right.
2 lintels welded that would support that row lock or soldier course
They're
of
not-
brick across the top of there.
They're not real heavy.
Yeah.
Just one row, huh?
but, you know, maybe if it was, you know,
It could be metal, it could be metal work too.
metal work, and that metal work incorporated into the
Yeah.
column.
It's just more money.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
No, that's fine, that's fine. It just,
I think though, if you are gonna decide that lettering or word to go in there, that it's not brick on the bottom, I think it shows, you'll be able to see it visible. But if you're not gonna put anything like what Jeff suggests, I think it does need to be on brick on the bottom.
yeah. I mean, that was just an idea that,
But the planter area in front of it,
uh-huh,
and if you had letters down low, you put planter area, are they
Or
gonna
you
put
could
that
do like
up?
standalone letters like
It's gonna be like-
Southeastern, could the letters be in the grass?
They could be, yeah, well, they could be.
Is that what you were, yeah, maybe you
Yeah,
weren't
that's-
saying that,
If,
but I would like
if you
that.
put brick on the back, then you put it in the grass. I was just afraid the grass of that planter area might, if it gets out
Go
of
up and
control,
block
if
the
it don't make it, it's
sign.
gonna block the
Ah,
sign.
that's true too. Well, maybe that's a reason to keep it.
well, that's just a ground cover, so it would be very, very low, so it wouldn't.
So if budget-wise, well, the letters, individual letters.
I mean, it's
are
probably-
expensive too, but
This, we did this before, this kind of, you know how Carter Plantation is, Jeffrey, is?
Yeah.
That's kind of was kind of the thought, to kind of tie that all in, but, you know, that's something we could lose and do other kind of lettering
Plus that
or nothing.
Tends to
She has a question
show
on-
stains.
I have a question for clarification. So this is a stone product?
Yes, it's a cast stone.
Cast stone.
The company that cast it, and they're made in pieces that fit in, and they're all just kind of laid in, and then what we were gonna do is, talking with the electrical engineer, we're gonna put like, it was gonna be like a little LED strip light that would be tucked in underneath, right above that, into that brick. Of course, I have to detail all that, but it would just, that would be the only lighting on the sign, because we didn't want to compete with the sign itself, you know? So the city of Hammond would have been lit from above with a small strip light, but, you know, if people feel like that's not necessary, we
Because,
can,
you know, actually, the sign
Huh?
could say Hammond at all times, right?
what, the LED sign?
Yeah,
I don't know what it's gonna be on there.
but I mean, it could have just at the top.
Yeah, I mean,
And then you scroll.
this thing's controlled by computer, so Michelle and them would be there, or the city could go on their computer and change out the graphics, and it, you know, it,
For this product, is the charge usually by, someone asked about the number of letters, if it was cost by letters. Obviously, the size of it dictates the cost, but,
it's more the length of the whole thing.
right.
Yeah.
mhm.
I mean, I personally, I mean, given that it's like a welcome to, I do like the idea of Hammond being a more, the word Hammond being a more permanent fixture versus something that's on the digital screen.
Mhm.
And so.
And we could make that smaller too. That graphically is probably too big, and that those cast stone panels could probably be smaller, and maybe not have so much on either side of the city, the C and the
Does it
D.
have to say city of?
Huh?
Does it have to say city of? I mean, isn't that obvious?
Well, I mean,
Would it say like, welcome to Hammond instead?
well, that was the other thing. I said it could be City of Hammond, it could be welcome, it could be eliminated.
Historic Hammond?
Or it could just be a stone panel with nothing on it, or it could be a stone panel with raised letters on it. These are cast letters. They're actually cast into the product.
Oh, logo?
Yeah, and I showed Lacey, the product is made by a company called Pineapple Grove, and you can cast the city logo into that. You give them the artwork, they can cast anything into this stone product. So there's a lot of opportunity to do other things with it, like, you know, whatever the city logo is. Is it the depot? Is that the logo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Oak Tree?
It's behind this screen.
Well, it could be, both of those, you know, that could be cast in there too, so. Like this, like I said, this is just really to get something on paper to figure out what it's gonna cost, and so we kind of know that now, kind of where we're headed, and as we get into the details, I'll be glad that every meeting we come, I can update you where we are as we make these changes, and, of course, we'll meet with the city again and find out what their comments are, and like I said, I'll present to the DDD board on the 15th.
Is there any, I guess, because one thing we did talk about was having a similar aesthetic to Railroad Park. Is there any interest in doing this just being flat and then having the metal signage that we have? Hammond could be those
Or the cutout.
metal cutout, and that could kind of be mounted on
That's
the
cool.
stone.
I like that.
Just leave it brick
I know it's gonna
at the
add
bottom and then.
cost.
Just mount the letters on the brick instead of the stone. Yeah.
Or it could be a piece of plate steel and then Hammond is carved out
Yeah.
as the
I
negative.
like that.
Mhm.
Then you can
Right.
backlight
And
it.
it might
Be
be
backlight that,
cheaper.
yeah.
Backlight.
We just don't want too much
So
light.
it starts to
you know.
tie that in. Right.
Yeah, you could do that. And then we could, whatever that metal is, it could be incorporated maybe above the sign and maybe
The
even in,
cap.
huh?
Could also be incorporated in the cap.
Yeah, you could do all that.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And I like the idea of the actual brick piece that's holding the sign, instead of brick at all, could that be some steel? that
It could be.
Start to
Mhm.
respond to the.
Yeah, it
gray-
could be, absolutely.
The gray colored steel.
I think if we went with the metal sign, that maybe that we start
Yeah,
incorporating more metal into
Yeah,
it.
and it would just
Yeah.
get a little more
Mhm.
variety on the
Mhm.
materials.
Yeah.
Other than that.
That's just part of the development of
Scale
this,
is
the
great.
design, and so, once I get the kind of the go-ahead to move forward, I'm kind of at a standstill until there's more money committed to the project that which, we'll talk about, I guess, on the 15th.
Well, because, I think you mentioned it, but basically, where we're at with what the city has already dedicated funds to, they've dedicated 75,000, just the sign and the electrical for the sign gets us to 68,000, right?
It's pretty close, yeah, 65.
So, I think all of our comfort knowing to move forward with this, we would have to know that our board is going to dedicate some additional funds.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, we're putting like
You're putting a
15
black,
by- a 5x15 digital billboard out there, and
Mhm.
all of the other stuff that kind of makes it a bit more substantial, we don't have a budget to plan for, really. So.
Michelle, go back to the plan that shows where it's located. Well, I got a question that just popped into my head. What is the ultimate goal of the property out in front heading south? Right now, it's just a grass field that's used during
Mhm.
booze and barbecue. What,
Let me check our master plan.
And does the city, we do all that whole thing, don't we?
if it's going to become parking in the future, that sign's going to be right where you would have to access it. Unless you came off of.
actually, no, it wouldn't be, because there's a drive. If you look at an aerial,
Behind,
there's a drive that's close to the railroad tracks.
which is
You
where.
can get around it, you say?
Mhm.
You
Oh,
get
yeah.
to the
Oh, yeah.
east of it?
Yeah.
That's where they drive in now.
Plenty, yeah, that's where the access, that to mow it and all that. Mhm.
I'm sorry, I looked at the map, it looked like it was all the way to the railroad.
Oh, no.
Whenever the lighting project was done along Railroad, were there discussions about that corner, the use for that space?
It's kind of away from downtown where I don't think people would park there, but, there's a potential for that corner of Coleman and Railroad to be developed that would could utilize that parking.
Well, definitely, we talked about it across the street, north of there.
Definitely north of it, but also
Pavilion would
south.
look nice on that land.
I'd hate to, a parking lot be the first thing you see when you come into the sign.
Yeah.
I think that would be unfortunate.
That-
It would have to be a really well-treated parking lot.
Well, should we bring the sign a little more forward south where the trees are, that right after the trees, you get a sign there? Or is that too far south?
That might be too far, but I think
Yeah.
it could come a little further south. But should we
Mhm.
continue at least one row of trees at the street edge, that relate to the bollards?
Uh-huh.
Because it kind of just stops and then it's just grass.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but then that's gonna block the sign,
Well,
too.
if it
Well, you could stop it
limbs it
short.
up, limb the trees that we see under them,
Mm-hmm.
or.
And you could lower the sign, possibly. Does the city even own that? It used to be owned by someone else at one time.
Or do
All
you,
that.
or do you let the trees march down the railroad track side of the property?
You could do that.
It just seems like they stop abruptly and then there's just
Mhm.
telephone.
Because we didn't own that property at the time. That was owned by Lillian Moran or someone.
Oh, is that
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's why the tree stopped.
Does she still own it?
I don't know. Assessor's map.
It's just, why is so much controversy around these properties and these other railroad tracks is bewildering.
Yeah, right.
And it prevents us from utilizing it properly.
I think Hoover's owns some property that is on the other side of the tracks.
I do?
Yes.
Like,
See?
Yeah, but there's a piece,
but comes south, Michelle.
zoom in a little bit.
Right there, click on that. Oh,
See that little
out
strip?
back.
I guess that
Oh,
strip.
Wow.
Times Square, that's the
That's
Hoovers.
Hoover's, yeah.
Like they own it?
This piece right here, yeah. See that piece that goes, see that City Hammond owns that little strip.
Right. And the other side towards the railroad tracks?
Yep.
Hoovers
I
own
saw
it?
that when I first started this.
Oh, their
project.
property goes over the railroad track? Is that what's happening?
It looks like it to me.
Wait, hold it right
Like
there.
that, click that box right there, Times Square.
Times Square.
Yeah.
And it
That's
comes-
that whole
It
chunk
it
of,
comes out all the way to the street.
that's actually them, huh? Times Square, okay.
Well, how come we have to plant on their property?
Huh?
We planted on their property.
I don't think it was their property when we planted that.
Almost $3,000. Looks like we have 300.
35 by 390, check that out.
How big is it?
35 by 390.
Can we get a
I'm
pavilion
certain
right there?
Hoovers would work with the city on
Yeah.
that. I mean, that's a useless piece of property to them.
It's, yeah, along that track, you can't really do
Right, I
anything.
wonder if we could, yeah, you gotta donate.
Where the trees stop, I said, okay, I see where the trees stop.
So it looks
Trees
like
stop like right, no, a little further north.
A little
this is
further
the
north.
gas station, this is the bank, so it looks like the city's ownership goes all the way down to about midway of this building.
About
Oh,
right.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, this is-
Yeah, I had Andrew Fowler survey it, and it shows the property lines on there.
yeah. So I guess these trees are on private property, but these trees, those in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
But it looks like the Hoover property goes all the way to the street past
Yeah,
there,
it looks like they
Goes a good ways down.
all the way down there.
For a minute, although there are utilities
They
there.
really can't do anything there, could they?
Not with all the
Harvest
trees
the
like
trees.
that.
Timber.
I mean, I think, I love biking through it. It's a great little park area, you know.
But then there's
But then there's that.
stops and
But
then boom. you
When
got
we did this years ago, Lillian Moran owned that whole piece, and we couldn't plant on it. That's why it stopped like that.
But it sure would be nice to landscape, at least along the railroad tracks, to block the view of that metal building as it comes down, because that's kind of like, welcome to Hammond, we like.
You know what, that's a great idea. Yeah,
It's a very nice drive, but then it abruptly stops.
Yeah.
That would have to, if we did landscaping along the track, it'd have to be something outside this project. We
Right,
just
of
don't.
course, yeah. But go down to Coleman Street and turn east and go towards the tracks. Let's see that drive that Roy's talking about.
Turn. There's the drive just past that pole,
Right there.
right there.
Is that pole staying, right? I guess
That pole will have to stay. That carries everything. Our power will come down that pole, and hopefully the meter and all can be on that pole and go underground to the sign, because I don't want anything on the back of the sign, and we can come up into the sign according to the,
Where's the nearest transformer? Ron?
I'm sorry?
Where's the nearest transformer?
There's
Oh,
just a
it's
couple.
right there.
There's one, but he thinks, Ray Nolan, the engineer, thinks it's probably going to come across River Avenue. Looks like that's the one that's feeding this
Okay.
pole. There's one down there
Okay.
further to the west.
So you still can get around, so this little drive misses the signage.
Yeah, oh yeah, the sign only comes out just barely past that, where that curved concrete comes out right
Oh,
there.
really?
Yeah, that-
Yeah, it does not further. You see where that mark, there's a water meter right there,
Cone.
there's a hole in the ground right there. It comes just along the edge of that,
Oh,
so.
okay.
You could still get one in the center.
The
Yeah.
map-
They'd
the
have to
map
move
looks
a
like
pole.
looks like it's further in.
You see, that's the view back. We'd pull those shrubs and stuff out, and, but we have to maintain that site triangle through there for people to be able to see,
Of course.
oncoming traffic from the south.
No, I think it's great. It's gonna be a great addition.
But look, we'll, once I get the go-ahead, we can start making some of these changes and keep everybody abreast of what's going on.
And so, oh, Michelle, the master plan, I think it just talked about a signage there. I don't think they addressed that raw land, what to do with it.
No, it looks like,
Like entry feature, I think it called.
Yeah.
for, which is
Gateway.
what this
It's a
is.
gateway.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that we want to column there, that, you know, we can't really make a gateway, but something that feels like you're passing some threshold or something when you're going through.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess the further south you bring it,
Mhm.
the less away from the street you have to put it, right?
Yes.
The site triangle,
Mhm.
so that could help
Mhm.
get it a little closer to the.
Not much, I mean, you'd have to go a long way, it's like a 400-foot line that you have to follow.
Okay.
So it's at a very, you know, slight angle.
And I'd have to look at the city's master plan to see if their master plan has any specifics for that site, but I do believe that when this one was drafted.
Wayfinding
it was
kiosk.
consulted. So, yeah, basically a gateway sign.
Gateway marker.
But while you're on the master plan, this still has not been promulgated by the city, right?
That was on our list.
And there's a reason for that?
Well, I don't know, I've inherited all of that, I think, so.
You're digging into it, huh?
You have to get into it.
That's one item that we'll talk about. Our board's actually meeting on both tomorrow. We're having our board retreat, so in addition to a few other facilitated sessions where we'll talk about that, kind of setting some goals for this year, and the adoption of this plan is important.
Okay.
aspect
My
of that.
grandson?
By the time they adopt it, might be ready for another one.
Yeah,
5 months old,
let's
that's
get a pavilion back in there.
Your day's
Okay,
coming
moving
one
on,
day.
to director's report. I guess, Michelle, you can continue on with.
Good job, Roy.
Yeah, thanks, Roy, that was good.
Thank you.
So, we can just keep this kind of quick, I guess, just some updates for the downtown lighting project. Legislative session begins on April 10th, and Representative Muscarello is carrying this request to that session for us. I talked to Lacey and I said, you know, if there's anything we need to do in terms of education or, you know, anything we need to do, we can do whatever we need to do, make something, or we have to go to a session and make testimony, we could do that as well, but she said none of that is likely necessary. I still don't know what the request really looks like, so I know that there was concerns about that when we last spoke, and you've also voiced them to Lacey for, you know, what is the request, and, you know, there's a certain amount of specifics that they're gonna be looking for, but, and we have certain items that we'd like to see, and so how narrow is the scope for this request? Is it just lighting? We might like to see, does it make sense to do a sidewalk at that time, or a curb bump out at that time if we're already improving an area? So, I don't have any of those answers today, but, hoping as we just kind of move through that process, then we can kind of think a little bit more holistically about receiving this funding. What does all of our other parties' funding look like to make the most of getting these capital outlay dollars?
Because at the end of the day, if the funding isn't enough to do everything we want, I'd rather do a smaller area and do it right than do everything and not be happy.
And it seems to me too, a lot of this, we should know a little bit what's going on and do some planning before November, because if they get the award, they're gonna pull the trigger, and I guess Chuck is gonna take off with it. But wouldn't it be nice if we could have some influence beforehand of like what's gonna happen and how we might see things happen? If we can't do it all, maybe we do a smaller section, do it right, because it seems like to me, they're gonna be digging up a lot of sidewalks and things to get electrical underground for these lighting
Well, let's hope
standards.
that it is underground and not overhead. That would be my,
Well, I think, you know, there are towns that have buried their power lines,
Mhm.
and it's been a pretty comprehensive approach on the city's behalf to do that and to make that investment from either, you know, their own budget or also getting other funds that come from the state, capital outlay being one of them. So I think if we aren't having that conversation, we need to be having that conversation just for aesthetics, but also durability and sustainability. We saw the effects of Hurricane Ida and, you know, being out of power for so long. So, and then with that too comes, you know, the sidewalk improvements, and we already know that there's areas that need curb bump outs and that may need some additional paving. So I would also rather see it be done in a holistic manner, and we'll try to keep tabs on this so that we're able to be a part of the conversation, or maybe start the conversation in a more concerted way.
And it would be better to do it beforehand rather than after the fact, which is the way it's done so many times, you know.
You know what that's bringing to mind, and I know we just talked about master plan, but it seems like within this master plan, a sub-plan would be infrastructure master plan. You know, what would we like to see with the infrastructure going forward? Because really, is, you know, our pet peeve is development, encouraging development in our district is beautiful infrastructure. And I think the park that Roy designed is a perfect example. Would like to see all of downtown look just like that. I mean, that's.
So would this plan be more of a blow-up of that and highlight those areas that need it to continue?
I
mean, it
guess,
could be
yeah,
something.
you could
it's-
do a little area that says, here, this is what we'd like to see. The
Yeah.
traffic calming measures, the lighting be underground.
This master plan is really kind of a big broad brush concept. I think what he's talking about is like get into these details of by block and see how our sidewalks all coordinated and how tree plantings and lighting and all these things, you know, look at it in a lot more detail than rather than just this big broad brush, which is what this master plan, asterisks and stars and stuff, you know.
But you brought up a good point about overhead lines in general. I mean, we know that the lighting definitely would be underground, but one of my pet peeves for years has been, just along Cape, all the power lines along there. And it's always been, it's an Entergy cost, right, to have them come in, but why not try to roll some of this money, if we can get it from the state, just those 2 or 3 blocks? I mean, if there's still sidewalk work to be done.
Now, on top of that, I know I've already complained, I'm worried about this, is the cypress trees are gonna get into those power lines within the next few years. I mean, they're growing fast. And I don't wanna see those things lopped off, you know, that would destroy the whole aesthetic. It's a chocolate, you
And
know.
I don't believe anybody's ever really put pen to paper to figure out what that would cost, or if Entergy would even be willing to kind of look at that with us, but man, that would totally clean up.
They want
I'm
you
talking
to
about
pay
getting power
for
lines down.
it. They want you to pay for it,
Yeah,
but it needs,
half or
it needs to
something.
be in our vision, because it's gonna be on top of us before we know it. And then people are gonna complain, well, I lost power because the cypress tree hit the wire, or Entergy won't let it happen, they'll cut it, they'll just come and cut it, they don't even ask permission.
Well, I saw a news article, Entergy is now getting ready to charge customers more money for electrical power to kind of cover their costs from Ida.
Yes.
And
Well,
it just like, if
Not
they
all
would
the
use, if they'd use some of this money to start doing things that put power lines underground and do other things to eliminate hurricane vulnerability. But of course,
Oh, yeah, if you
very
sit there and
expensive.
kind of figure out the amount of money they make every hurricane season of just coming back, I mean, it's, they don't ever want to put anything underground.
No.
I mean, it's unbelievable, you know.
Well, we do have to work with them.
Sorry.
We are a public record. So we are thankful that we do have an electrical utility company that actually, I guess they did come back from appearance, so that's good. So yeah, I think, you know, it's still kind of, legislative session doesn't start until April, but hopefully when things kind of settle down a little bit more with me, we get an administrative assistant in, we can kind of take more,
That's true.
we can kind of take a more concerted look at that. The history exhibit project is still underway. I think we're going to be giving it a fresh set of eyes in the coming weeks. In December, I actually did work with Ashley. We did a research pool from the center that we now have those records at our office, so that I think she'll still be involved, but I don't know to what degree she really will be able to, you know, like do some more of the like grunt type work. So we already have like a framework developed for these history exhibits and the narratives. We are meeting on February 15th with the work group and going over our timeline, firming up public input dates, and really just spending some time typing out those narratives and making sure that it's historically accurate, and that it is the, you know, that we're working towards our objective for this grant, but also, you know, the project that we established early on, that we're doing that. So a lot of effort will be put on this in the spring because we are time bound with funding from the state. a draft report is due on August 15th, and then our final report and reimbursements by September 15th. I would rather say the August 15th is our like deadline, just for
Mhm.
abundance of caution. So with that, Roy has been very helpful in attempting to find some companies to see, what exactly the cost of these would be. We've gone from a vision of doing these,
Mhm.
bronze plaques similar to one we have in the park, that was thousands of dollars. So in our budget and the quantity that we're looking for and the size that we're looking for, Roy kind of talked with ASI
Yeah.
about.
What I did is we really wanted to try to define what kind of product we could afford. Because, these bronze plaques and etched metal and all that are just in the $90,000 range, that kind of. So I only met with ASI to kind of define the specifications and the cost of what we were doing. So what we're doing is called a HPL panel, and it's similar to the panels that the wayfinding signs are that are downtown now. That's the process where it's kind of, these things are printed and then they're laminated, and then we will have like an aluminum frame probably around it. It'll be a green, like a green background, because it kind of goes with what we're doing. Green background with maybe white text, so it's not color. So it's a little bit more in keeping with our historic district and the organic nature of our park, and that's where they're going to be. So that's kind of what we've defined as of now. We've ruled out everything else. Because we will have to put this out to get quotes on it. I don't know, we have to go to public bid, but we'll be able to get quotes. It's under $50,000. The price that we've gotten is right at $17,894 is what she estimated. So we kind of know that that's probably closer in our budget than the other type of products and that kind of thing. Anyway, so I've got the specs from her, that I can use to define for prospective bidders when we have our artwork done. And the plan is when we get our photos and we get our narratives written, we're going to go to Antoine, who did the park graphics, and let them mock up each board so we can hand over ready artwork to the printers, and then we'll be able to bid it with that artwork and the specs that I have.
Is each panel just words, or is there any kind of graphic?
No, they'll probably have the Railroad Park logo, I'm thinking, and we'll let the graphic design people figure out how it's going to be presented. But it'll be text, it could be timelines, it could be maps, it could be historic photos, anything railroad related history.
The way that these can be printed, we have more flexibility. Well, I just Googled HPL, high pressure laminate panel, I guess.
Yeah.
I think the way that that process goes, we have more flexibility in what the end result looks like
Yeah.
versus
Mhm.
those like metal bronze was basically only text, and they may have done like one etched photo, which
Yeah.
would have been thousands of dollars per.
And she investigated that for me back in the fall and realized it was out of our reach, financially to do it that way. So this is what they use at zoos and most
I think it's
signage.
great, yeah.
Huh?
What's the name of the company that does it?
They don't do it in-house, they send it out, but it's, ASI is the company that, I just know them and I've worked with them, and I think Holly Smith's worked with them, and DDD's worked with them. And, of course, they're we'll have to get at least 3 quotes on it, so.
Yeah.
And she told me it's probably about a 6-week lead time to get, once we hand them the artwork, to get it printed and get it installed. So, that's kind of, so you can back figure from that. So
Thank you for taking that on, Roy. That has been very helpful. Any other discussion about the history exhibit? Okay. The historic district, continuing kind of keeping that communication and working together. There's a meeting next Friday here, starting at 9:30. City Council, Planning and Zoning, Building Department, Planning Department, whatever that really means right now, with staff. The Main Street Program, the DDD, will all be here kind of seeing how we're all working together. So basically, it's open to the public. If any of you would like to come, you're more than welcome to. Obviously, there's intersections with the Historic District and Design Committee. So if you are available and you'd like to be a part of that discussion, Friday.
Who's conducting that one?
Grace Greiber, the Louisiana Main Street,
Oh,
and
excellent.
Amanda Lantana, who is his assistant director.
Okay, someone else facilitating it, yeah.
So he's doing a presentation on how everything kind of works together, and then basically it's gonna be like an open forum Q&A type situation. Heather is the one who coordinated everything to come together. This is built into the commission's retreat or orientation for this year. So,
Cool.
yeah.
I think Ray has done this before, hasn't he?
He has. He's come before. He's done like a Main Street 101 session, but some kind of movement out on the state level is that Amanda is his assistant director, and so she's part-time Main Street and part-time CLG, like coordinator at the state level. So that way the historic districts and the Main Street program are more looped in on a state level, because even locally we've had issues with that. So I think it will be productive and helpful. So if you're
Excellent.
available, you can come to that. Just some movement on some properties that will be under renovation soon. We're currently 116 West Thomas building. It's the old strawberry patch building between Old Hatchet House and that barber shop. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I think we're kind of still at a standstill for if that facade is going to be saved or if it's going to be reconstructed, built, basically, you know, semi-demolished and then rebuilt. I do know that the historic district has given them timelines and say a plan needs to be implemented by this time. But I'm just trying to keep an eye on things and be as helpful as I can. There's a grant award that opens in a couple of days that property will be eligible for. I've made that aware to Heather and several knows. So I'm just trying to be as helpful where I can, but you know, I don't really have time to take everything on. So there are some resources to help them bring that property back to life if they decide to.
Do you know anything about that? I know that they had structural engineers look at it. Do you know the stories behind any of that, or is that worth talking about?
I wouldn't talk about that.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the structural engineers have been hired, recommendations have been provided, and I think ultimately you don't really know what you're going to get into in a historic structure until you get into a historic structure. So, you know, no other like seismic testing or stuff that we did for the monument was done of like, you know, what the
Seismic testing?
I don't know. Didn't we do that for the
More like the
monument
train.
or something? So basically, it's a visual observation. That's the type of assessment that has to
Okay.
be done.
I'm just curious.
223 East Thomas, Old Richardson's Fashion Building. Those plans were presented at the previous meeting, and I believe that they were approved. I've made connection with the property owner for the facade grant and also their request for sidewalk reimbursements, which is a process that we've just got to formalize a little bit more, just to make sure that the city and the board and the property owner is fully aware of, you know, basically like an introduction of the request, and then it's built, and then the reimbursement can be done. So that it seems like with a few of them, parties weren't informed about a request until they were being asked to give money. So Lacey and I well, actually I'm heading to the building department at 10:30. I think you are also headed too. And we're going to talk a little bit about that just so that we can firm up that process. We kind of talked about it last time, and just make sure that, you know, we can budget for it appropriately. Right now we don't budget for sidewalk improvements. We haven't in years past, so everything requires a budget transfer. So it's basically on a almost like an as-needed basis, but then that also doesn't, you know, we want to make sure if this is something that we're offering it to everyone, I would say. And it's a benefit to our community to do that and to continue doing that. So just putting some due diligence in the front end to make sure that all parties are informed about the requests.
Michelle, I had a couple of comments on this project and really going forward on other projects. There is a property tax rebate.
Yes.
Is that still enforced? I believe it's still law.
It is.
And the problem is, and I've been involved with it because projects that I've personally done, I was able to get it, and then they changed the rules where you have to apply before you start construction. And we weren't informed of that by anybody in the city when I did the last project, and I didn't get to take advantage of it, which is, I think, unfortunate. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of it and that
I did try to make
that the city's aware of it.
a touch point with the Historic Preservation Office, and I would like to just have a meeting with them so they can walk me through the program. So basically, if I want to take advantage of it, what would I need to do so that between Heather kind of communicating with them, that way someone kind of knows and can give them, I mean, it's a benefit and a resource, so they should be aware of it, should be able to utilize it.
It's the state that,
Yes.
the state was the one that kneecapped us on it, because they said, no, we changed the rules, you didn't apply ahead of time, you can't get it. But the city council has to approve it, and then it goes to the state,
Got it.
LED. And I've told Matt Hunt about it, so he just needs to know where to get the application from to apply. And this project has gotten National Park Service approval for historic tax credits, so it's going to be a great new project for us. And the fact that the sidewalk thing, this is what's a benefit to the DDD and the property owner, because DDD and the city aren't funding the whole cost of the sidewalk. The owners are ponying up a third of it. So we're getting infrastructure improvement by the property owners, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, so those, your exact comment are the things I need more information about, because I can't answer people's questions about that, but I do want to be able to, so I'm trying to get briefed on all those
And
things.
as I mentioned the infrastructure master plan, well, just because of my involvement in this for all these years, that I've designed the sidewalk with that in mind. The traffic calming measures on the corners and
Yeah.
the bricks and the tree grate and all of that.
Right.
Are y'all doing that on 223?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was speaking pertaining to specifically the tax rebates and the tax credits,
Yeah.
just so I can answer those questions for folks.
And there's one other thing too, that this Shriver's group,
Schreiber?
Ray Shriver?
Oh, Scriber, yeah.
Shriver. Anyway, the state has this big grant that I've been able to get a couple times for like $10,000-$15,000
Yeah.
annually. When does that come?
Those are over the summer, so that's Louisiana Main Street Restoration Grant.
Right.
So that one is over the summer. The federal grant is called the Paul Broom Grant, and that is usually in February, March. And those are annual awards.
So I'd like for Mr. Hunt to get an opportunity to apply for that.
Yeah.
Those are strictly for restoration, or it could be a totally new?
No, it's restoration.
Like what we did over Tim Hackett. No, he got $25,000.
Yeah, I've got 15,000 for also, but, so anyway, yeah, it's a good thing.
You'll see some improvements happening at 124 North Kate, so it's the brown door. They're cleaning that brick up. There's vegetation growing on the, I guess, north side of the building. So they're cleaning all that up. I don't know if they're repainting the brick. I don't know if it's going to be that same salmon-y color or if it's a different color, but some improvements are happening there. In terms of budgeting, we should be in our budget planning phase pretty soon, probably the end of February, early March. And so just kind of like taking a harder look at these accounts. So our facade grant, we usually do between 15 and 20,000, which winds up being between like 8 to 10 awards. The sidewalk reimbursement, we've had 0 in that for many years, and we've always had to do budget transfers. So, do we need to put funds into there? And then depending upon how we are structuring the reimbursement, obviously it has been on an as-needed basis, but if more people knew about it, would they be taking advantage of it? And obviously I know that there's some requirements with the new sidewalk build-out, with new construction, or to a certain degree, a property owner they're required to do sidewalks as a part of their construction. So, kind of thinking about that as we're forming our budget. We've had some discussion with some DDD residents, particularly on the east side, right over there actually. We have line items in our budget for $5,000 for each side. For residential improvements, and usually, I mean, what they're interested in is lighting and sidewalks and design features. So there's a specific request to basically, if they don't spend their funds, they would like to have those, instead of those funds rolling over into our general fund, they would like to basically have a residential savings account almost, so that they can save and plan for projects. And our residential committee hasn't met in quite some time, but there's many eager individuals to do that. And most of their interests are design related for our residential areas. If the welcome sign doesn't happen this fiscal year, making sure that we're planning for it in the next fiscal year, and then obviously we need to take a look at our budget for the history exhibit. And we have funds there. I mean, we can move some stuff around this fiscal year for the panels, given our revenue that we've got from brick sales and whatnot. So those are just some design considerations in terms of budgeting. But I kind of want to take like a harder look at our budget and just see where are we budgeting for, how does it set our priorities, and making that a bit more cohesive. So that's all I have.
Okay.
Questions, comments, concerns?
I just have a question. It's not related to anything you were just talking about, but what can we do to get the city to get busy to fix the dang roundabout out there that's been hit by the car
That's true.
twice, and get those bricks back? It looks terrible when you come into town. I'm just saying, everybody drives by there and looks at it. It's horrible.
Speaking of which, what happened to the water fountain at the
A
park?
car,
Yeah.
you probably know the
How did
details.
that happen?
So
Figure that out too.
I tried looking, our back camera, you can barely see like a little sliver of like what's happening. All I can see is that it looks like there's a vehicle that,
Jump the curb.
There's some broken plastic and all that out there.
Yeah.
How did he jump the, he missed a
There's a-
light pole
there's a
in a
light-
tree?
He missed the light pole in the tree, and he crushed the gutter on La Coretta, but didn't damage the building, didn't hit
It's a little scratch.
didn't hit the mural wall, but took out the $8,000 water fountain and the fence.
In the fence.
I don't know, I really don't know what happened. I tried looking at our footage on Monday when I saw
Mhm.
that it was destroyed, but I've been so busy. I
Maybe somebody at La Coretta
Wonder if
knows
the
what
post
happened.
Was it
office
a,
might
was it a
have a
hit and
camera.
run? Did the
I
person?
don't know. I'll try to get some information on it, but, I think the police department probably
Damn things are
knows.
expensive.
I'm gonna check Sobel to see if he knows, but I really don't know what happened.
But I just don't know how they,
Pay off this
how
past
could they
weekend.
have done that? The angle that they had to take, why would a car?
Must have been.
It looks like, is
Dodging.
it like a golf cart or something?
That's what I'm thinking.
Golf
It's a
cart?
golf cart.
I don't know,
of some type.
but it was, I mean, it took out that, I mean, the metal posts that were there that were supporting the fence.
It was wood
I mean-
posts.
Oh, I thought they were
Yeah,
metal.
no, wood.
Oh.
Like
Well,
I
I mean,
Did water start squirting out in the drinking fountain?
I don't know, it wasn't whenever
I'm
I
sure it
was,
must have.
Oh, my God.
But somebody cleaned it all up, and
there's cones out there and, you know.
I will report this, that John Kelly and I and his superintendent are getting ready to meet there next week to talk about some of the things they need to do that have been there's been a few little vandalism things but it's mostly, we're looking at the cost of a polycarb roof, something that we wanted to do originally, but we were concerned about the cost. We're gonna look at a cost of a polycarb roof on the stage, and a couple of little things they need to take care of, the manhole, the catch basin covers, which are really clean outs, about covering those with something that can still let water go through it, but keeps the damn smell from coming out from the drain from La Coretta's grease trap is what it
Right.
is. And then I'll get them to look at the fence and all too, to give us a price to fix all that and the water fountain, and then I'll hand it over to Michelle. And what I don't want happen is, I don't want happening there is what's happened that's kind of what brought me up to the roundabout thing. I don't want to see what happens at the roundabout, that it stays like that for a year or two, which has been that long, that happens at the park. We need to get that fixed. You know, we wanted to put a gate there. The city wants to put a gate there, so it's an opportunity now for us to put the gate there so they can clean out that lift station without having to bring a truck into the park.
Whenever I saw the fence destroyed, I thought, oh, well, maybe they decided to put a gate here.
That's what I thought too.
Discussion.
That's what I thought
And I'm
Monday
like,
when I
well,
saw it.
whoever did it really did not take care of this fountain in the process of doing it.
No.
So
Yeah, that's
you
what I
know.
knew it was
Well,
an
whoever
accident.
did it needs to pay for it.
That's what, yeah,
You
exactly.
gotta find out who it is and make them pay for it.
Could have happened in the middle
She
of the
said
night.
the police probably knows if we could find out more.
Yeah,
And the
I
post
haven't
office
had
might
time
have
to-
CCTV.
It's gotta be someone who was
Investigate
drunk, is I would have to guess.
I think it's
a
a
terrible driver.
along in the middle of the night in a
And-
golf cart on the sidewalk and then.
How do you hit a roundabout?
Or something.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Well, I can't make a motion.
Oh, I thought you just did.
I
I
have
motion to
one- I have
adjourn.
one more,
Oh, one more.
request from this. What, can you tell us about the last DED meeting when there was a request to change the makeup of this committee?
So the request was, put in by Mr. DiVittorio, and he was, I guess essentially asking to remove the criteria that we have listed for a person holding the seat. So architecture, I mean, it's very broad in general. It's real estate, construction, builder, interior design, graphic design, arts background. You know, it's pretty broad in terms of design. And so he was requesting that the board look at the potential for a seat on this committee to be like a community seat, someone, I guess, who's inexperienced in those areas. And there was no action taken, a discussion was had, and I don't think any board member was in favor of it other than the one that was making the proposition. So I don't think it's up for discussion again. We'll,
Didn't it include not allowing the people to sit on this board to do projects within the DDD or something? Because Kathy called me about it.
there were some additional.
I thought eliminate everybody in town. We didn't have no designers on
There
here.
were some additional criteria.
Outside.
Initially, you know, it kind of ballooned, I guess, so to speak, from what I initially thought his request was to
To what
what
actually
it
happened.
actually happened might up being. I mean, no action was taken on any of the items that he requested, and I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. I mean, we know that we have had some issues with approving projects, and there has to be recusal from a committee member serving on the committee, but also being the firm that does the project. And that has, you know, we've had to make special meetings and stuff like that. So to a degree, like the practicality of it, like I can understand that, but I don't think it should be done to the detriment of you all who are here volunteering your time, involved and interested in wanting to improve our community. And though we do wind up finding a workaround those recusal situations. So it may not be perfect, but you know, there's recusal all the time that happens on public committees and public bodies. And so that was kind of the discussion that was had at the board meeting. So another request that was not put in to revise that. We are moving forward with the appointment of that seat as our bylaws and guidelines basically state that we do. And, you know, we'll just move forward with that.
See, the main purpose of this committee when it was formed was to review the new projects being built in the district that are outside the historic district. That was the whole, another way to help what our city's gonna look like as you enter the downtown. And it's kind of morphed in, we're doing a whole lot more than that now, but that was the initial reason for it, was just to protect the integrity of our built environment as you approach the historic district.
Right.
You don't have a bunch of metal buildings as you come in. That was the whole purpose of it. And why would you want to put people that can't read plans or don't understand, you know, architecture, detailing, or, you know, what we do, and not be on this committee? I don't understand what Mr. DiVittorio's problem is with this. You know, I'm not getting paid to be here, and I'm not receiving great projects because I'm on this committee. I'm just
Right.
here to help this city
Right.
be beautiful. You know,
Well,
I'm
potentially there's
insulted by
also
it.
an area for us to have better, the design committee and our board could have a better working relationship, in addition to having a better relationship with the city and the historic district. So, you know, I think, majority of the board, are thankful for the commitment of our committee members and are, I mean, it is our only consistent committee. I mean, you know, we meet monthly. consistent, participation is really great, and we work to get projects done. So there's a proof in the track record, I think, for the committee.
Mhm.
And, you know, if the board would like more input on what the committee is doing or sort of more of the day-to-day, then they have every right to know that.
Show up at the
but,
meeting.
You know. So there's a
Exactly.
platform there certainly for them to get more information, and I try to do my best to inform them. But I do think that I think the issues there, maybe there's a minority of people who feel that there are issues. So we can press on with our work. You have a comment?
Moving now to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Thank you, girls, ladies.